Well, my girlfriend told me not to say anything too embarrassing or not to lose it, so I'm
That's a shame.
I'm trying to be on my best behavior. But I'm going onto a street that scared me a little bit, so I prefer to take my car over transit or bicycling. It's simply for time. The biggest thing that I see with just your regular everyday cyclists is they don't tend to pay attention to the rules of the road. I find that there's a lot of running of stop signs, there's a lot of not obeying traffic signals. I notice that there's a lack of signaling, and so it's really hard to get a sense for where they're going, because in some cases they don't have great over their bikes, so then they tend to weave into live lanes of traffic a little bit, and it just becomes a very frightening kind of thing. And see, there you go, right there. Just, you know, I get what he's trying to do, but at the same time he bolts into that, and were I not paying attention, it could have been worse. Couriers scare the hell out of me, to be quite honest. Anytime I'm downtown, they frighten me. They're just all over the map, in and out of traffic. You have no idea what they're gonna do next. I'm just afraid that, you know, one day I'm gonna hit one, and that the thought of that just scares me. They're aggressive, fast, in your face, frightening. I've had a few cyclists yell a couple of expletives at me. I think there's just a lot of animosity amongst a lot of the drivers that are on the road, no matter what they're driving. A lot of people that are on the roads tend to almost take it personally too. If you know, by accident you cut somebody off, and it doesn't matter whether they're a cyclist or a driver, they take it personally, and they think that you're a bad person and doing something bad for them. And I've noticed it increasing over the last, I'm going to say 5 years. I think it's just more people want to get places more quickly, and it's more of a selfish thing, and everybody wants their space on the road. I don't know what the solution is, but taking a street like this and putting a bike lane in it, like, can you imagine the gridlock? We have to share the road. Like, you know, I would love a road where there were no cyclists on it, just because I don't have, that's one less thing that I have to look at. But, you know, the reality is that there's going to be cyclists, so that means I have to pay a little bit more attention.
All right, Dave, I think I heard that bicyclists scare you?
Couriers.
How so? Couriers, they scare you.
You know. More so just the aggressiveness with which they cycle, and there's a certain unpredictability there, and I would be deathly afraid if ever I were to offend one. Just, you know, believe me, as a driver, the last thing I ever want to do is hit somebody, or, you know, whether it be my fault or not.
People just need to relax, and okay, people, you know, bikes generally at stop signs, predict it, you know, and when I do, you know, when I do stop at a stop sign, everybody gets confused and forgets how the right of way works. Like, people just need to chill out and expect that unexpected stuff happens on the road, even from drivers. I mean, I saw, you know, I can understand when you're trying to make a right turn in a car. I mean, couriers have a saying, it's called right side suicide. You never take the right-hand side of a car, because if it's a cab driver, your passenger, your fare is getting out. And then that's a car door. Or you don't know, like, maybe he's not going to signal. Maybe he is turning right. You always take the left-hand side around. You always pass a slower-moving vehicle on the left, right?
I just want to touch on that, on the cab driver thing. I think a lot of people need to realize that of anybody that's on the streets driving every day, I think cab drivers are out there the most. And of anybody who's driving, I think they probably expect us to be there the most. Unfortunately, because they're all the same color, they all look the same, it's really easy to lump them into the same category. If half the people in Toronto drove red cars, it would be those red car drivers are always driving me off the road. You know, I do think more education needs to be done to let the cab drivers know that the onus is on them. If their passenger opens up the door, they can be charged.
Do you want to respond?
We are well known about everything, not only by law, but by the cyclist point of view as well. The cab driver are more experienced people on the city, and they have a lot less accident than other people have in the city.
Have you even ridden a bike here?
I do.
How often? And is this like a once a year? Is this like an everyday thing or once a month?
No, it's a few times in a month, yes.
A few times in a month, okay.
Yeah.
So you think that in a few times in a month, you know just as much as I do when I'm on the road for 8 hours a day, every day of the week?
Well, in that case, I would like to say one thing to you is that why don't you try driving a cab for 12 hours one day on a weekend and see what the cab drivers have to go through. We're just not worried about the cyclists.
But I don't have a license, so I can't do that.
The thing is that we just don't care worry about the cyclists. The customers in the back seat of our cabs, they get mad at us. right? We get to put through a lot of stuff. We worry about the
what's
cyclist.
more important to you then, a cyclist's life or your fare getting angry?
So when we're driving on the road, we're worried about everything.
Wow, dude.
Right? We have to worry about everybody. So if we're worried about the cyclists, the customers, what are we supposed to do?
But you're not worrying about everybody. You're worrying about yourself and your fare.
How are we worrying about ourselves?
You're worrying about where your money's coming from. You're not worrying about the person's life who you almost extinguished. You really need to do that, sir. Because when you do finally end up killing somebody, you're going to look back on this and go, you know what? That guy was right. I should have paid attention.
So what happens when the cyclists break the red lights and coming in front of the cabs? What should we do?
If they're breaking the law, that's their fault.
So that's what I'm trying to say.
But if they're not breaking the law, then that means it's not their fault.
You're driving down the road and all of a sudden a cyclist comes in front of you without even looking. What should you do?
I hit the brakes. What do you do?
How hard are you going to hit the brakes when somebody's behind your ass in the back of the car?
Yeah, they shouldn't be following you so close, so that's their fault.
Yeah, so we all have to communicate with each other.
Did you want to comment on this conversation?
I think, obviously, there's stress between those that are on the road too much. Road full. Surprise, surprise that couriers and cabbies would probably, not come to blows, but verbal blows. I think there's generalizations. None of us like it when people say, oh, those cyclists, they, this, or, oh, those cabbies, they, this. It's a generalization. As hard as it is to not take it personally when it's your life that feels as though it's been put at risk, we have to just remember to breathe and try to step into the other person's shoes.
Thank you very much. Now, when we come back, we'll figure out if everyone can get along.
It is like waving a gun around. Are you going to pull the trigger or are you going to put the safety on?
When someone's dead, whose fault it is doesn't really matter.